Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you guys. Very appreciate it. Thank you very much. Very kind of you all. Welcome everyone to the Saturday live stream. Good to see you all. Where we're gonna have a bit of an unusual night tonight. Actually, really looking forward to it. Hope you all are having a good time. I have put my tea in the other room. Need to fix that. I will do so momentarily. How's everyone's week been anime-wise? What you been watching and catching up on, I wonder. I know on Friday I watched Guyver Out of Control, which was immensely cheesy and entertaining in every way I had hoped. Don't know what else you guys have been enjoying in recent time. Rent a Girlfriend, yes. I've also watched all the anime of this season, all the first episodes of the anime of this season. I may spend some time later on tonight talking about those. So I do have some thoughts on the new anime of this season. We'll see where all of that, what time we have. Season 1 of Golden Kamui, nice. I really love the manga of that. I got a few volumes into that, really enjoyed it. Haven't gotten into the anime yet. Streaming Spice and Wolf and FMA 2003, nice. I watched a couple episodes of that FMA, I think this week or last week as well, which is really cool. Gunner 00, cool. Akira 13 Territory Inspection, coolness. Very nice. A lot of folks watching a lot of stuff. I'm looking forward to getting back to Sword Art Online, which I really enjoy. Do I hear that? Well, that didn't work out very well. Hold on, everyone. Sorry about that. Had some brief technical issues. Yeah, silent voice. I love it. Yeah, it's not quite syncing up the way I had hoped, but I think we've got this working. Okay, let's try this again. Hello and welcome to the latest anime news for the week ending July 11th, 2020. An official website opened this week for an upcoming television anime adaptation of Hajime Musashino's Burning Kabaddi manga. The story centers on first-year high school student Tatsuya Yoigoshi, who used to be a star soccer player, but now dislikes sports in general. All right, high school student, check. Kid superstar at their sport, check. Angsty backstory, seems pretty likely. What's next? That's right, joining the high school sports team. Tatsuya gets recruited by the school's Kabaddi team and is skeptical at first, but becomes more interested once he actually watches one of their practices. Now, Kabaddi isn't exactly a household name in most places, so don't feel bad if you've never heard of it. It's a contact sport played by two teams of 7, where a single offensive player must invade the opposing team's territory and try to tag out as many of their members as possible, while avoiding being tackled all within a single breath. That premise alone will definitely lend itself to some excellent sports anime slow-mo scenes. The sport is popular in South Asia, where it's the national sport of Bangladesh, as well as the state game of 11 different Indian states. The Burning Kabaddi manga debuted in 2015 and shipped its 14th compiled book volume just yesterday. Next up, something a little more saucy. Publisher Alpha Polis has an imprint specifically for novels and manga oriented towards adult women, and has announced this week that 12 of these stories are inspiring anime adaptations. Each story will comprise a single anime episode, with the whole collection streaming this fall under the collective title, brace yourselves for this one, Eternity Late Night Wet Love Channel. Yes, I just said that. The episodes will air weekly, with the regular version airing late night on Tokyo MX, and the deluxe heart version, complete with adult scenes, streaming online. This week also brings announcements of 2 new short anime. First up, the short anime... there we go. First up, the short anime series Nocturne Boogie, which was produced entirely remotely during the quarantine. Creator Junpei Morita created the project while experimenting with new ways of production now that COVID-19 has limited the use of traditional facilities. As well as creating the anime's premise, Morita also wrote and directed the episodes himself. The series tells the story of a group of roommates who are monsters and one secret monster hunter, but are each trying to live normally while keeping their true nature a secret from others. The series premiered on YouTube and Gyao on July 10th. The anime also used an interesting technique to raise some extra money while it was in production: ad space for sale within the anime itself. Posters and TV screens in the background of the show could be reserved by sponsors, and their own photo or video would be shown during the episode. Hey, maybe next time we can have our newscast on in the background of an anime episode. There we go. One more anime short is on its way as of this week. XFLAG, or SFLAG, I'm not sure, announced on Wednesday it'll be airing a new collaborative anime short on July 15th. The short, titled XPICE, is the first part of a collaborative project between XFLAG and other Japanese creators and musicians. XPICE is inspired by the 4-member girl band Scandal, whose original song, Spice, will be featured in the short. The project's official website gave the following description of the new short. Quote, "We knew that when you mix a diverse set of people and talents, the extraordinary happens. So, with a mission to create new culture, we brought artists and creators together to combine a unique story, masterful animation, and an all-new song from Scandal into something the world's never seen before. The result? Our very first work, Spice, a tale of heroes fighting to protect their city and how they grow along the way. It's got a dash of courage, a pinch of teamwork, and a whole lot of heart." End quote. Aww. The episode will be produced by CG studio Marza Animation Planet, with Spooky Graphic credited for the artwork. The project also makes use of the gaming engine Unity, which is proving itself to be quite useful for things beyond games as well. So curious to see where that ends up. Our next little news tip isn't all that surprising, but that doesn't make it any less exciting. GKIDS announced this week that they have officially licensed Studio Ghibli and Goro Miyazaki's upcoming Earwig and the Witch film. The company plans to release the film in North American theaters in early 2021, so those of us in North America definitely have something to look forward to for next year. And hopefully it'll be touring theaters in other parts of the world as well. But, gotta wait for news on that. The 82-minute feature film, based on the novel of the same name, will make its television premiere this winter on the NHK General Channel, and was also chosen as part of this year's official selection for the Cannes Film Festival. Pretty darned impressive, gotta admit. And now, on to our regularly scheduled online event announcements of the week. Our own dear Anime News Network is the latest to get in on the online streaming events trend. They announced this week that they have partnered with Anime New York City, quote, to create an ongoing series of online events that will showcase anime premieres, in-depth interviews, and interactions with anime creators and publishers. Anime News Network Connect will launch its first episode on July 14th. The episode will feature a special online premiere of the new anime GKIDS, and afterwards an exclusive interview and Q&A session with the show's producer Ryo Aoki and director Masahiko Komino. They will also be giving away 5 autographs from character designer Yoshitaka Amano, who is best known for the Final Fantasy series and Vampire Hunter D. The episode is only available to audiences in the US, Canada, and Mexico, though I'm sure determined fans in other places can find some way of watching. ANN also makes it clear that this episode of the show will only be available live and will not be archived, which makes sense as they're streaming an episode of an anime licensed elsewhere. They note that future sessions of Connect will feature, quote, both live and pre-recorded events, including screenings, interviews, and company focus sessions, as well as other topics, end quote, and that they hope to make many future Connect episodes available permanently in their archive, though, quote, some will undoubtedly be live only, end quote. So if this sounds like something you'd like to tune into, check out the first Anime News Network Connect episode at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on July 14th. Interesting to see an ongoing online series of events. Another con has announced their switch to online this week as well. There is certainly one slight silver lining to all this. We have the opportunity to attend a whole lot more cons than we normally would in person. Montreal's Otakuthon convention announced that it'll be holding this year's event virtually on August 15th and 16th. Non-live content from the convention will also be available for 30 days after the event in case you can't make it or if you just want to relive the experience. The event will include a continuous stream of main events, 2 continuous streams of panels, and a virtual exhibition hall with dealers, industry, and artists. It will also feature a social lounge where attendees can chat, call, and video chat, as well as interactive video gaming streams, game shows, and guests. Convention t-shirts will be available for sale at the virtual Otakuthon merchandise booth, and tickets, which will cost $15 US, will include a physical badge and a postcard, so you can still come away from the event with some con souvenirs. Who doesn't want that? A new English manga app is now available for those of you looking for even more legal ways to read. The free manga app Comico launched an English version this week in the United States, Canada, and Singapore. The new iOS and Android app is called Pocket Comics and launched with 41 titles containing both Japanese manga and Korean manhwa. The service also plans to launch Spanish language support at some point in the future. Some of the titles that launched with the app include Yayoiso's Real Life, Kakero Utsugi's How to Keep a Mummy, Kurose's Momokuri, and Sho Futamata's Nanbaka. All 4 of these series previously inspired their own anime adaptations, so there might even be some titles you've seen before among the offerings. Exciting, plus the other 37. The service works on a rental system, which they specify is, quote, an equitable system for artists and writers. Users can try out the first part of any story for free. Once they finish the free chapters, they can either choose to purchase chapters directly or can wait a certain amount of time to be able to rent the next chapter, usually about 23 hours. The service plans to add new webcomics to their selection every month, so manga fans, give this one a look. If you've ever wished you could get inside the mind of some of the great early manga creators, or at least in their personal workspace, your chance might have just arrived in Tokyo. A museum opened in Tokyo's Toshima ward on Tuesday that reconstructs the Tokiwaso, an apartment building that was famous for housing some of Japan's most renowned classic manga artists, including Astro Boy creator and father of manga Osamu Tezuka, Fujio Akatsuka of Tensai Bakabon, Fujiko Fujio, creator of Doraemon, and Shotaro Ishinomori of Kamen Rider. The new Tokiwaso Manga Museum replicates the rooms of the manga artists and is located only about 200 meters from the place where the original building once stood. So that's pretty cool, pretty close to the original. At the opening ceremony, Toshima Ward Chief Yukio Takano said, "We want to showcase the birthplace of anime and manga culture to the entire world." The museum's first visitor noted that, even the mold and spots on the interior walls have been recreated perfectly. They said they could feel firsthand the manga creator's lifestyle and breath. Despite the flawless attention to detail in the reproduction, the museum charges no entry fee, though reservations to visit must be made in advance through their website. Pretty interesting stuff. Now, are you or anyone you know planning to propose to your loved one anytime soon? Just want a special gift maybe for a special someone? Well, the latest addition to the never-ending Evangelion merchandise line has got you covered, because nothing says I love you like the Spear of Longinus. That's right. You Treasure is releasing a set of Evangelion-themed wedding and engagement bands themed after the mythical weapon, the Spear of Longinus. The Spear of Longinus Solitaire Ring and the Spear of Longinus Pair Ring are both available. Each comes in two versions, a platinum and rose gold version, and the more casual silver and cubic zirconia version. The Solitaire Ring, the one with the diamond, costs 330,000 yen, or around 3,000 US dollars in the platinum version, which is pretty typical for a wedding ring, though not typical for a licensed anime good, unless you're one of the three people buying that $40,000 REM figure. The Pair Ring, which features less diamond but more obvious Spear of Longinus, is about half that price in its platinum version. Or, if that level of commitment isn't up your alley just yet, the silver versions each cost around $150. Those silver rings will be only available for pre-order through the 28th of this month, though. So if you're going to pick one of these up as a gift for somebody else, or just a cool accessory for yourself, make sure to do it soon. That's all for this week. Thanks for watching. I sure hope that worked. Okay. Doo-doo-doo. Doo-doo-doo. Yeah, man, the lip flap is just all over the place in that figure. Now it's perfectly fine. That's weird. Oh, that's weird. If I look away from it, it's better. But if I look straight at it, it's worse. I don't know. It's strange. It's very strange. That's okay. That is just kind of the way things sometimes work out. Yeah, nothing says loving trauma like an Eva ring. As we were saying earlier, when you think of loving, healthy, romantic relationships, you think Evangelion. Yeah, that's definitely a weird one, but that's okay. So yeah, new cons, all that stuff is always interesting to see. All right, I think I'm going to go ahead and get my guests on to talk about some of these new videos, these news items that we had. And I'm lucky enough to have two guests tonight. So let me go ahead and switch this over. Hopefully this will all work as expected. I think I have to do that, and then do that, and then I can do this, and then we can switch on over, and we can have a little conversation here. There we go. I think that is working. JJ, can you hear me?
I gotcha.
Excellent. Unagi, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Sweet. It's like it's all working, amazingly enough. So we've got JJ over here. You guys have seen recently, and I'm very pleased to have Unagi Observer as well. Long time friend of the channel.
Thank you.
Good to have you guys on here and talking a bit about the news, which is very exciting. Man, Gorilla, you jinxed us. Something's gonna happen. All right.
I was just about to say, Unagi, if you mute YouTube and unmute the other, you'll actually be in sync on one versus out of sync on the other.
Yep. Yeah. Make sure you're listening to the Discord audio, not the YouTube audio, if you have the
Yeah.
YouTube up. So
Otherwise, you'll have a huge lag.
Yep.
Really noted.
Cool. So we want to talk about a few of the news items this week, starting with Comico's new, Pocket Comics app. The fact that it looks like we're going to have yet another way of reading manga digitally. Do you guys use these English manga apps at all?
I do.
I haven't yet.
I do.
Just purely because it's one of those words I'm waiting to figure out where the stories end and where I need them to go for me for closure. So I'm gonna get there eventually.
I use them back actually in the past. I used them a lot, and that's actually how I crashed my Android phone repeatedly.
Oh no!
Because of okay.
Oh.
So I wasn't exactly legally looking at some of this stuff. That iffy gray area. So I kept crashing it, and I'm just happy to see more of this kind of stuff going on because it just makes it easier. To figure out where you need to be, not only for that, but also for it's just a nice cheap way to get someone into manga.
Totally. I'm curious, do you actually read it on your phone or a tablet or a computer or?
Well, at first I was just doing it on a phone because work was work and I didn't want to do work, so I'm working. But no, that it went to tablets. Obviously, traveling because there was a time where I was traveling between Baltimore and DC on the train. So things like that actually made it a lot better, a lot easier on a tablet than a phone. Because also after a while, you kind of get tired of.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I think that you works on your eyes a little bit. But pretty much almost all platforms.
Gotcha. And what have been your experiences with that in terms of have you found certain genres work better in that medium? Some things just harder. I know for me, a lot of certain shonen manga just had such dynamic panel arrangements that I just really couldn't follow it as well on a smaller device.
Yeah, it works out great in any fashion you do it. So.
Yeah, it does. It depends on how close you want to look at it. It actually depends on the detail. For example, I wouldn't use it for reading some of more detailed artwork, beautiful artwork. That's something that needs to be expanded on so that you can actually look at it. If you're looking for the story, for the quick action, those kinds of things, I think that's pretty good for it.
Cool. I guess the 4-koma manga too, that's easy enough on a phone. It's one panel at a time. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, it's interesting. I totally agree. It's really nice to have another legal source for things. It does feel like we're kind of in the manga world where the anime world was, I don't know, 5-10 years ago, where it's there are all these streaming services, and do I want this one or do I want that one? And things are spread all over the place, and it's kind of hard to, if I want to read these 3 manga, I'm probably going to need 3 different services. It's sort of Wild West at this point, I think, but hopefully it's going to get a little easier. We shall see.
And certainly it's interesting to see the enforcement process that's going forward, where in the Wild West, yeah, there's still an awful lot of places you can get manga and anime, obviously, that are they're out there beyond the pale. So it's interesting to see another offering that is legal. It's like that's a good sign, I think.
Definitely. I'm actually digging in now to see. I don't see any note on price. I don't see any indication of what they're. Oh, wait a minute. So yeah, you buy coins in app for purchases.
But coins?
Yeah. I think it's a typical thing where like you can't actually spend money directly in the app. You have to buy coins in the app. Then you can redeem the coins in the app for whatever. But I'm not sure how many coins you need for new material in the app. So that's actually what I'm kind of curious about is like how much you're
the rough
basically
equivalent of 5,000 yen.
Exactly. I could rent a girlfriend for that much.
Exactly.
That's a joke for those of you watching this season. Anyway, but yeah, that's kind of interesting. Also, kind of interesting to see starting in what was it? Let me make sure I'm getting this right. United States, Canada, and Singapore.
Yeah, Singapore's a funky third.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously, Singapore has a very large English language, population. No problem there. But it's just, I'm assuming that these are all titles that have not been licensed, online digitally in North America, Canada, or the U.S., Canada, or Singapore. Like, just those happen to overlap. And they're like, oh, okay, well, we might as well put it in Singapore as well. It's kind of interesting. And that they're planning Spanish language support. Again, not surprising, but the fact that they launched the app for English, language, and then say, and Spanish is coming soon. Like, this is going to be a multilingual app. Like we really want this to be international.
The other third of the world,
yeah,
exactly, yeah.
Tune in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I find that interesting because they don't say China, right? Like they don't say other things. We were nice getting that billion
you would
people.
think Hong Kong,
right?
You know what I mean, for English support, you still do have a fair amount of English speaking in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So that's surprising, but then there's things involved right now in Hong Kong.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
A little preoccupied.
Yeah. And again, it's one of those weird things where, and I just can't imagine being involved in all of these legal discussions because, maybe a quarter of these things are already licensed in Hong Kong. They're like, okay, well, we could launch it with fewer titles and also go into Hong Kong or not, What a pain. What a pain.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain official party lines that you have to meet that you don't have to worry about in Singapore or necessarily U.S. or Canada.
Yeah, yeah. I'm betting 5 years ago Hong Kong would have been on the table.
Yeah.
Yep. Gosh.
Now, after the changes in the special district security rules, it's less likely. Unfortunately,
actually that's very true. If they're embarking on being able to get into everybody's phone, they're probably going to be looking at reading habits and things like that. Back when we had right after 9/11, when we had the name of the act, but libraries were very much against it. They didn't want to release. Actually, when I was working for the Pratt Library, they gave us a directive on what to do if the FBI actually showed up.
Oh wow!
Said when somebody's reading history. So this is probably the same thing in China or in Hong Kong, where they're saying, "Oh yeah, we get to look at everything on your cell phone."
Mm-hmm.
So this may be, a problem that maybe not so much for the user, but it is for the people of the app. Really don't want to be able to be hacked by another government to have that information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're seeing that sort of in general. I was reading a tech newsletter recently, and they were saying, we could be moving towards a future with two internets, a Chinese internet and a rest of the world internet.
Yeah.
That's
North Korea's got one.
Right? Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
Very
sucks apparently, but
imagine that. So yeah, interesting. I'll definitely give it a try. See how the app works. And also nice to see it's on iOS and Android. So so often it's like, well, we're on Android now, we'll do iOS eventually, or we're on iOS now, we'll do Android eventually. Nope.
Yeah.
Everyone gets it. So about this mold infested museum. Where was it Toshima Ward has recreated the famous Tokiwaso. It's a building that housed Tezuka, Fujikawa Fujio, Shotaro Ishinomori, bunch of famous manga artists back in the day, and they have recreated that building to make it look exactly like it was back in the day I
wonder if it smells like the building back in the day.
Like
to recreate the poor artists living, sort of environment where it's like you walk in and you go, oh, God, who's been smoking in here?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we could forego the fanboy funk.
Yeah, exactly.
I can guarantee you they were like, well, people won't want to go, but, I want to live the experience.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the stale cigarette smell would have been overpowering.
But yeah.
Stale cigarette, cheap beer, occasionally a nice whiskey, and then a lot of cheap whiskey. Maybe some soju. You never know.
Yeah, I think back then they were not buying a lot of, anything.
A lot of water.
Yeah.
Ramen and water. Packaged ramen.
Much. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean,
I still think it would be interesting to go see.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's like as I was telling you guys, earlier, is the guys that did the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they opened a museum sort of conceptual thing in Northampton, Mass, and it was interesting to see the actual drawing board and what their office looked like and how the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles got created, to see how everything was laid out, and they were fairly truthful to it. So looking into a manga artist's space, it was just full of crap.
Yeah, sure.
There's just stuff everywhere, and things that you would expect tools to, pencils and erasers and everything else, but just crap. There's stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a special. It's definitely a specialized museum for a specialized of interest. But it's something that of course, there's an audience for everything. And I was kind of wondering about it. Was I read this, I got to be honest. If I'm there, I would more than likely go to it, just because.
Oh, sure.
These people that you read about, you want to see, you want to know. And actually, it might be spring to somebody who is like, oh, it's just drawing comics. It's just, this is all they did. Why is this so important? Why do you make such a big deal out of it? You see the fact that they were literally just eating ramen and it's stale cigarettes and really bad booze, soju, which is, just really, stuff like that. And it's kind of interesting and how people would react to museums like that. My theater did, of course, it's not nearly as fun of a topic, Diary of Anne Frank. But we actually called the museum over in Amsterdam, and they did a virtual tour of it.
Oh, wow.
So you could sit there with the Oculus. We had people going through that. And so, and the reason why I say that and pointing that out is because there is, there's something you don't get just, reading about it or, talking about it. Sometimes there's that visual, and that click of understanding of going, oh, wow, Tezuka really didn't have a great start in all of it. It really was ramen and beer and bad cigarettes.
So
Well,
if any-
that's like the thing they did for Disney for Walt Disney's 100th birthday celebration.
Yeah.
Because they recreated the office on his last day.
Wow.
Now, not his last day in that office, but his last day here on the planet. And you could sit there
Are you
and
sure
think,
he's dead?
there's a solid chance he's cryo-freeze in the basement of Disney World. Who knows? But you could look around his office, recreated, and see things like sheet music laid out, notes and letters to, from and to different people, and sort of, some of the projects that were ongoing at the time, so to get you a little bit of the mindset of the man. So, that's easily for that kind of space where you're going to sit down and you're going to, see Tezuka's workspace. It's give you a little concept of the idea of the man. Maybe about what things were around him that were inspirational but were part of his storytelling style.
Right.
Was there did he have a particular thing that was sitting in a spot that he looked at and that helped him to envision stuff that was going on? Was there a puppet figure or something like a Kokeshi doll that he said, well, geez, that kind of reminds me of Astro, so I'll kind of do that? Did he have a wind-up tin toy that he looked at and said, that's I could do better? I mean, that kind of thing. What am I looking at?
This is
My hungry artist years.
So this is
Is that,
yeah.
is that Tezuka? His.
This is Tezuka's drawing of his room in this apartment building.
Wow.
Yeah. So if anyone's curious, and this is kind of giving you that idea of all the different bits and pieces, there's this book called The Osamu Tezuka Story, and it is a manga adaptation of Tezuka's life. And when I say it's a manga adaptation of Tezuka's life, it is a manga adaptation of Tezuka's life. It is.
Wow.
It's beefy.
Holy cow.
Yeah, this is page 354 of
4
900
6 comma?
906. But it does go into the fact that, in fact, I think they have a thing here, of Tezuka and friend going into that building, and them, that whole experience they had, and the fact that I think I have a thing. Is this? So here's an example of just kind of their working style of having all these desks like right next to each other, and sharing things and so forth and so on. Where your line person is 1 foot away from you doing their thing, and you can just hand things back and forth. But yeah, it's very interesting. There's having something like that is so iconic, but is gone. I think it's definitely special having that back again in some form, because architecture and those physical things, like you're saying, not only do you get the little bits and pieces that inspired them scattered around, you also just get that sense of place, that sense of that thing that was central to history.
Bunch of people crammed together in a small space in July in Tokyo.
Oh,
With no air conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Drawing manga for 22 hours a day.
Might as well just go visit Gold's Gym in August.
Exactly, yeah.
Same smell.
Oddly, that's something that, how heavy are those dumbbells you lift? Never got into. The smell of the gym.
That's not something you probably need to address.
True.
You can probably figure that out on your own.
But who knows? Maybe you'll go to the gym, you'll find that special someone, and then you can give that special someone an Evangelion engagement ring. Because who wouldn't want an Evangelion engagement ring, right? Yeah, we're talking about $3,000.
Thanks anyway.
Yeah. I also love that. I mean, you can kind of theme a lot of things around Evangelion. It's a fairly amorphous property. They decided to theme this around the Spear of Longinus, which is famously not very ring-shaped.
Oh.
Well, the way that they adapted it from the pictures that you showed, it's neat. It's kind of wrapped around it. That's fine.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah.
you know, if you're that into Evangelion, I mean, do you serve Tang at your wedding reception or something? Be like, oh, this is the orange goo everyone turns into. You know, it's anime.
Yeah,
Thing.
it's well, and it's funny because it's like this is like okay, there are Evangelion things where it's like okay, I can buy coffee, and I can buy Evangelion themed coffee. Like fine, whatever, right? Like it doesn't, you're buying the character wrapped around the side of the can, whatever.
Right.
And then there's the figurines, the Rey in a bathing suit, whatever. When you're spending $3,000 on something for somebody else that is themed around an anime series.
That's a little too much for me to chase someone away with.
Exactly, yeah.
So you better make damn sure your audience on the receiving end of this is totally on board.
Yes.
Because otherwise, it's going to be, blissfully, I've only seen it once, and it was sort of pre-YouTube, but literally saw someone in an airport, and I can't remember if it was Albuquerque or where the hell it was, but literally someone do here's a bunch of flowers, and they're standing over sort of near the boarding gate, and they do a presentation, and they get a ring out, and the other person walks away. So if you spent $3,000 on an Evangelion ring, oh hell, you better make sure your audience is receptive on that, because that's going to be an expensive thing to try and go hawk at the pawn shop.
Yeah. Oh, now granted, you can get the silver versions for just $150, and I do wonder if this isn't one of those things where, again, if you're an Eva fan and you're getting this just for yourself. Like, I've always wanted a ring. I'm just going to put a ring on my finger. $150, fine. And then they make, 10 of the platinum rings to say, yes, here's a weird thing to get all the headlines. Right? So everyone reports it. Everyone does a big thing. They sell, 500 of the silver rings and 3 of the diamond platinum ones. Wouldn't surprise me.
That
sounds
could
right.
be doable.
Of course, it's can only pre-order through the 28th of the month, so got to get on that. For all of you,
I best act fast. I should cancel my REM figure and buy more of these. Resale value is just exponential.
Okay, now that you've said that, I've got to find out. I'm going to writestuff.com now, and I am looking up the REM figurine.
And you're going to buy that and the platinum ring? Wow, Brent, you're deep pocket today.
Let's see here. See, it's still pre-ordered, so we still have time. It actually doesn't release until March 31st of 2021. Yeah, the REM figurine. So we have a ways. We have a ways. That's actually bad because that's going to be sold immediately.
Well, it'll be in a better year, hopefully.
True.
Once 2020 stops kicking us in the face, then we can move on to 2021, which will be a much kinder, gentler year.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see. Could be the revenge of 2020. Who knows? 2021 revenge. It's sweet. Like, oh god, no.
Well, yeah. It is the new anime season. Do you guys have any particular picks for the new anime season that you have seen so far that really excited you?
Picks? What haven't I seen?
Yeah.
I got nothing else to do with my time.
That's the thing.
I got nothing but time as an otaku. I got nothing but time. I really did like Uzaki-chan wa Asobatai. Uzaki-chan wants to play. It's just so cute. She's so cute. And it's gonna be so simple. It just doesn't get much more simple than that. a great lunchtime watch, I think, and it's just you're not going to need to know too much about it. You just sit there and just let it roll right off you. It just brings off the stress of the day. Peter Grill, which we had talked about, is the new Ishizoku reviewers.
Yep.
That one is just for people who just want something a little more nonsensical.
Yeah.
Eshi, sir. You know, that'll work. I did see the first of the next season of Yahari Ore no Seishun, which is Snafu.
Oh, right. Okay. Okay.
I mean, it's one of those things. I remember the characters well enough from Snafu, but same thing for Ray Zero.
Okay.
I don't like the direction that Ray Zero has gone immediately in one episode, but we'll see. I have to remember a lot of stuff from the prior season to really sort of lock in to more of the surrounding characters, but it's not bouncing off of me because I love Rem, and I'm gonna watch this to see where this all comes together. But so far, one episode in, okay. What else? God of High School. Sorry, that's just stupid fun.
It is. From earlier today, today was actually the first day that I was able to actually look at new stuff. I've been doing so much retro stuff on my channel. Today was the first time. It's a girl. I'll buy into it just because it's just so Mystery Science 1000 to me. I just feel like I could just have a constant dialogue on this for the entire run. But yeah, the high school, it was just so insane, and there was just so much to it, and it was just. I think you were saying, JJ. I think you were saying earlier, you don't need to think about it. You just watch it, and it's you know,
just if you want a shonen show that's just. I mean, and we saw it in there, a brief reference to The Punch Man, and it's like, yeah, okay, and that's not a spoiler for anybody.
Yeah.
But you'll know it when you see it. It's yes, exactly. You've got OP people freaking everywhere, and it's just good fun. That's another one of those. That's a lunchtime like, hell yeah, go. Oh, I gotta go back. Okay.
Right.
There you go. And you're not thinking a whole lot about it. You're not writing your senior year thesis on it. So
there's an anime from some years ago called Needless, and I only got a few episodes into it, but it's basically Production IG throwing every shonen trope into a blender and just going pedal to the metal on it, and it's just overpowered sort of older brother character, big-breasted, attack girl fighting a combat girl, sort of wimpy high school boy who gets sucked into all of that stuff, and it was just so joyous. It was like, let's just do shonen, to 1,000%, and that's really.
Well, did you ever see Bento?
I don't think so. It sounds familiar, but.
God, where people are killing each other like full on shonen, like big ass battles for discount ramen.
Okay.
Or I'm not ramen. No, let me correct myself. It's not ramen. They're bento boxes. Discount bento boxes, and is hysterical, and the fights are awesome.
Nice.
But it's just so ludicrously making fun of the shonen trope that is like everything in there. You're just like, oh my god, this is ridiculous. who has like a knockdown, drag out 12-man fight in the back of a grocery store? Never seen such a thing. So
I gotta see this.
Yeah,
I gotta see.
Bento is fantastic.
Nice.
I did finish. I don't know whether it said last week or not. I finished BNA, Brand New Animal. I ran through that entirely, the whole series in a day. Wow. I just sat and watched it, and it was. I think it's a Trigger. I think it's a Trigger show, so it's got a lot of the Trigger stuff going on with it. A lot of the visuals are very Trigger. It was great. I really enjoyed that, but
nice.
I think that's from I think it's from the end of last season.
Yeah, I think
it's
so.
taken me this long to find it. What else? The Monster Musume. That one's that's like Peter Grill. You know, that's it's got the Doctor Monster Girl. Yeah, that's all that. That's just silly funny to watch.
I was surprised. I expected Rent a Girlfriend to kind of go in that direction, and was impressed that it's actually like a reasonably sensitive take on the compensated dating thing. Kind of like that a lot.
Well, and again, we don't know yet, unless somebody in the stream knows the manga that's behind it. It's hard to tell from the anime whether this is going to be like Photokano, where you've got she's the student council president, and these next 3 episodes are me and the student council president. Then episode 4, a new day dawns. Here's somebody who's head of the kendo club. You know what I mean? It's like we don't really know whether this is going to be one guy and his interaction with one girl and then other things happen around it, or is it going to be one guy, this girl, another person, and that it's going to sort of roulette around. There's going to be all kinds of different things going on. It's hard to tell from now.
It looks like from Wikipedia, very briefly, that it is just going to be this guy and girls, orbiting him, and this sort of awkward thing. But yeah, I'm very curious to see where they're going to go with all that, how they're going to do it. But
yeah, because I mean, if you drive it down into guy girl 1, guy girl 2, guy girl 3, okay, that's better, I guess, than guy girl 1. Then let's switch gears and talk to guy 2, girl 2, then 3, 3, 4, 4, and then everybody change chairs, and guy 1 and 4, girl, and then 2 and 5. It's like.
See, I think if you're gonna do that, you do what A Tale of Memories and Melodies did, where they basically rewrote the male protagonist for each storyline. So it was a visual novel adaptation, and they said, okay, there's a route for each girl, so we're going to adapt. And I think Memories is 2 girls' stories, and so they adapted 2 of them, and they just literally just took the main character, split him into 2 different people, and tweaked the personality of each of those people to be more, aligned with that plot line. So you got just 2 completely different romantic storylines, told over the course of this season, and that way you weren't stuck with this dull protagonist, dealing with these different characters.
They
but
do
also,
that for Agami SS.
Yeah, well, they did something like that for Agami SS.
Sort of.
Agami, from what I understand, is literally a reboot every 4 episodes. So it's literally, here's this plot with this character, that never happened. Here's the plot with this character, that never happened.
Okay, I was gonna say, because that's the one, that's Photokano right there, and that's what drives me nuts, because you invest.
Right.
Even if it's only 4 episodes, it's like you invest in what's going on there, and then have someone be like, "Nah, hold on, let's tell this from another perspective." It's like, okay, killing me. This is not like the arcs that you get off of Clannad, where you have the non-Nagisa arc. That's Tomoya, that's Rue, I think one of the other girls, or I can't remember her name. But it's like you have a couple of arcs that come off of that. That's like, okay, I get it. You've told out the entire central story, and then you're like, here's what would happen if this happened. It's like, okay, that's fine. But don't invest me 3 to 4 episodes and then be like, that's all, that never happened. You're like, oh, baby, no. I'm committed now. I'm already got the tears geared up for the emotional scenes. Don't you dare switch gears on me now. Papa needs him some rom-com.
Exactly. Or rom-drum, in the case of canon.
Rom-drum, certainly.
Oh, fun stuff. Cool. Was there anything else you guys wanted to cover tonight? Discuss and debate?
wait a minute. What was the thing we were talking about before?
Many things.
Oh no, it was the engagement rings. Yeah, we already got that done.
We went in a bad way on that one.
Yeah, that was oh my goodness.
We went pretty far down the rabbit hole on that one.
There are a lot of Evangelion pieces of merchandise out there.
You know what?
Enough said.
In all honesty, having covered, 330,000 yen worth of ring, no. Although we've discussed this, somewhere in the back of my head is like, for $150, 20 years, I think it's going to be about $500.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a plain old goofy silver ring.
Mm-hmm.
It's in there. It's cooking in there in the back of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
yep. That's the danger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
What's this from Spin? Brent, I don't think you have talked about your canon list.
Okay, so we'll bring that up, totally. I'm actually curious about this. Let me share with you.
I'm more into the 155 long tom cannon, because I think that artillery piece delivers the most punch for the distance. But, there's a lot of people that are 105s and French 75s. Those are fine field works, but I'm looking for a long distance piece.
Fair enough.
Wrong cannon?
Let me see if I can show you what I'm talking about here. I think I can.
I think I can. Batman's head on
a lance. Very good. So if I transition over to this, you guys on YouTube can see this. I'm not sure how to share this with the two of you. We'll figure out something. Cool. Mm-hmm. So hey, so I'm putting together something. I do not. Okay. So not sure what that had to do with anything, but so I'm doing something here that's I'm sure is gonna get me into trouble. The idea is that while I believe anyone can watch anything, like nobody has to watch any given anime, that it is useful to know what are the shows that people generally talk about, right? And what are kind of the conversational starters when people are comparing anime? What are the ones that they usually, mention? So I've put together this sort of initial list of anime that I think are useful to check out. None of these I would say one has to watch all of, but is worth getting a feel of. Yes. So the whole point, I'm trying to be as broad as possible with the list. I'm trying to say, these can be influential. They can be just sort of broadly popular in the sense of, this is something that just everyone has seen. It hasn't really changed anything. It hasn't really, revolutionized anything, but just everyone frickin' in America talks about Attack on Titan, right? Like that is just a thing. Same thing with One Punch Man, etc. So again, this is sort of if you want to get up to speed with the conversational talking points of the average otaku, this is a list I put together. No. No, because I have not been able to find a way of differentiating those two things. I think fundamentally, And because I have a friend, speaking of earlier things, that got into anime by sitting down and spending a weekend watching Evangelion TV all the way through in a weekend. And that was his thing. And he said that was an experience, but like that was his intro to anime, and he wouldn't have had it any other way, right? So I don't know what is a good starting point, right? So yeah, I can't figure out what is a good. And there's certainly anime that I'm like, people who get into it through Death Note. Like Death Note's not a very representative anime series, but a lot of folks get into it that way, right? Like whatever. So yeah, so I think these are all ones, and I split it out in 4 ways. I have split it out for basically what are the things that, for lack of a better term, younger anime fans who don't have a lot of experience with the medium necessarily generally tend to talk about and reference, right? So not us old farts, but younger people. Exactly. And so this is more of the stuff that that you see people talking about these days. Then I've got stuff for more experienced anime fans. So what I listed as what older fans are talking about at cons. So when you go to a convention and you see people, you're going to see things about Gundam or about Macross or about Tenchi Muyo that you're probably not going to see the average, current generation fan talking about. But there will probably be a panel about, Harem and Tenchi Muyo or whatever. And to be that. And then the stuff that is bigger in Japan, or at least certainly is big in Japan. So, Akira is certainly big in America, but also big in Japan, so forth and so on. But like nobody over here is talking about Heidi, while Heidi made a marked increase in Japanese tourism to Switzerland. So yeah, probably a big deal there. And then finally, just what's the artsy fartsy stuff. Wow. Mm-hmm.
Easily 2 out of 5 buses will be entirely filled with Japanese tourists. It's amazing. It's always fun to see them put a little red umbrella up and they follow the person with the umbrella.
Yeah, totally. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful thing.
Following.
So organized, so quiet, just taking pictures. It's awesome.
So yeah, I might share this list out like on Twitter or the Discord or something. I'm kind of curious to see where other people are on that list. Just I think in the past week or two, I finally completed the list, i.e. I have at least seen some representative chunk of every anime on that list. In some cases, just a couple of episodes, and was like, okay, that's enough, thank you. And others all the way through. It's always interesting kind of to see where folks are in that sort of journey towards conversational anime understanding.
Have you ever seen the entirety of Space Battleship Yamato?
Not
the
yet.
Original?
I sure have.
Wow.
Yeah, it's imagine being 6 years old and seeing that.
Yep, totally.
Channel 20.
Mm-hmm.
It was Star Blazers.
Well, it's only 26 episodes.
That's right. It was.
We're off to outer space, protecting Mother Earth to save the human race. Our Star Blazers heading off to Iskandar. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I remember things.
Mm-hmm. The ones I watched all the way through, I mean, I would say most of them. I mean, movies, obviously. Gundam, Macross, Tenchi, Evangelion, Bebop,
It's funny,
Blaine.
for Macross, all these years talking about Carl Macek and Harmony Gold, Robotech, and everything that they did to sort of bring the Macross franchise in. I've never actually seen Army of the Southern Cross. or Genesis Climber.
Really?
I've never actually watched those separate from how Harmony Gold jammed them all together to make Robotech. I never actually sat down and watched those individual series.
In fairness, the changes aren't that big. I mean, what they did. So fortunately, on one of the Robotech DVD collections, which back in the day I bought, because that was the only way of getting it. And
I've got the 20th anniversary collection.
Okay, yeah.
And it was same thing. It was like a lot of dough.
But one of the things they put on the extras was I forget what they called it, like the censorship reel. They basically had to make a clip collection of everything they cut out of all three of those shows when they censored it. So it's like this 20-minute video of every single shot, every single segment of film that they removed from all of those shows to make Robotech. And I can tell you what it is.
What were they? Yeah, so what were they?
Because I sat down and watched it all the way through. Which didn't.
Lin May somewhat naked.
Entirely naked.
That
panning all the way up. Yeah. What's the Dana from the middle
Sterling.
segment? She has a whole bath scene, and when I say a whole bath scene, I'm talking like 3 minutes of her in the bath, standing up, walking around her apartment. Like it's hilarious. It's like, wow, like this is fan service full scale. And then I think there's another like brief shower scene with Dana. I don't think there's anything in Muspeta. There's like one or two things. There's a bunch of shots. So Southern Cross is not set on Earth. It's set on like a colony that has 2 moons. So that's a problem. So they basically either cropped or cut out any establishing shots that showed those 2 moons in it. And there wasn't really any point in which that was relevant to the plot. It was just, here's the military base. Here's zooming in on the military base. And you can see kind of the 2 moons in the original shot. It doesn't really change the plot at all. There are several sequences in original Macross of hyperviolence, which they cut out. So when, spoiler alert for a 40-year-old anime, when Ben dies...
Oh yeah.
The camera stays inside the cockpit when it explodes, and so you see his body just get explode in bloody chunks.
I fully recall in Robotech some of the made it so much more than like Johnny Quest. Because at one point you've got a lot of fighting. You've got Zentradi battle pods kind of going around, Veritech shooting and stuff, and you have scenes where the Veritech fires and it blows the battle pod apart, and you see bits and pieces of machinery flying out, and you see the pilot go, and he like very evidently dies by exposure.
Oh yeah,
explosion and exposure to space.
Yeah,
dead. It was just like, what the?
Yeah.
Dude never did that.
Well, here's a good example of how different things were back in the day. Again, spoiler for a 40-year-old anime. When Roy Fokker dies, so in the original, you see him climbing out of his Valkyrie Veritech, and then the techs are talking to him, and they're like, "That's a little weird." Then they look into the cockpit, and they go, "Whoa!" In the original version, you actually see inside the cockpit, and it's just smeared with blood. There's just blood everywhere. And then when he goes back and he collapses, and I'm not quite sure how they did this. You could not show a bleeding wound on a kid's show in the 80s. You could show blood or you could show a wound. You could not show a bleeding wound. So when he falls down, in the original you see the 3, marks on his back, and his back is covered in blood. In Robotech, they essentially inked out the blood. So there's still the 3 bullet holes, but there's just no blood on his body.
I think he's playing
The guitar. Yep.
sitting in Claudia's cabin,
Mm-hmm.
and then he just kind of like smiled at her and then just
Yep.
off.
Down he
goes.
goes. Yeah.
Oh.
So it's little stuff like that where
I've never cried at a cartoon in my life, and it's like first
That's
exposure to that is like there's so much more that we're not doing with these things. Oh my God.
There is one other scene they edited, I think, for moral reasons, which I think is fascinating. In I think it's Mospeda, they team up with a character who cross dresses.
The one that's a singer
yes,
in the third series. Yes.
And so when they first meet him, and they completely cut out this, or they redo this scene, they recut this scene for Robotech. When they come in, he, in the female persona, they don't know he's a he yet, is being kind of harassed by people in this bar.
Right.
And the main characters just sit there and watch. And they come over and like grab the guy and start getting like physical and go to hit him. And then a fight scene breaks out, and they like the singer punches them, and then the heroes get involved. In Robotech, they don't hesitate. As soon as these folks come together, the heroes immediately rush in. And I think it was...
So they cut out a portion.
Right, because I think you couldn't show the heroes of your cartoon not rushing in to save a woman as soon as she's, being harassed. When, from the Japanese perspective, they're like, well, I just want to see where this is going. Yeah, I don't know these people. I don't know what's going on. I'm just going to kind of see how this plays out and assume that person can take care of themselves. So, yeah, it was this interesting sort of restructure of that material. But that's pretty much it. Like there was nothing else. Oh, then there are also some bits where like, and this was a little controversial. There are scenes where characters will be talking, and then they will respond to something apologetically by doing this, and you're ha 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 ha.
In the back of their head. Okay.
And they would cut that out because they said our kids will have no idea why somebody's doing this to be apologetic. So they would still have the line before they did that to sort of be apologetic, but they would cut out the sort of Japanese gesture. And then there's one scene where the characters are
apparently we were all idiots back then.
Yeah, apparently. Well, and again, this is for 8-year-olds.
But that's one of those things where it's like that's so inconsequential that I would almost envision somebody saying, "We've got 22 minutes. If we keep that scene, it's going to be 22 minutes and 10 seconds.
And
so cut it.
Yeah.
Because it's not. It won't make a difference either way.
And that was pretty much all the other cuts were things like, again, establishing shots. Where it's like, we have to cut out 2 minutes of this. So if we have three, the long shot, the medium shot, and the close up on the enemy base, we cut out the long shot or whatever. But then there was a funny thing where in I think it's Southern Cross or no, it's in Mospeda, they're basically stealing a truck of beer, and they're in the back of this truck of beer, and on the side of it, beer is spelled with I believe 2 I's. BIIR.
Yeah, or was it BIRE?
Something like, I think it was BIRE. Yeah. And it was just like, no, and like in English letters, like BIRE, whatever.
Right.
And so they just like cut out or cropped any time you were actually seeing that sign. So like we're and I don't think it was because it was beer. I think it was because people would like say, what is that? What is that sign? Why are they spelling it that way? Like that's ridiculous.
Right.
So but yeah, that was it. Now the other problem they had is that they did not have a script. They did not get a translation of any of those 3 anime series when they licensed any of those 3 anime series. So yeah, they had to go in and just say, well, no, they had a plot synopsis, like they knew what was happening, but they did not get like a line by line, ADR script. So they had to go in and write all of that dialogue.
Which, I mean, to be fair, Harmony Gold's trying to cram 3 series that are unrelated together into one.
Yeah.
So that actually is probably slightly helpful.
Yeah.
To have a synopsis about where they want the entirety of the series to go, versus trying to nickel and dime, like, okay, this line runs to this true universe, and we need to change it to be this universe.
Yeah.
So if you could sort of, man, that must have been a hell of a voiceover action. You know,
Totally.
You're like, okay, guys, here's the whole story. Now wing it. Like, oh god.
Well, and what's amazing is if you go back and you watch Macross, and I've only seen, I mean, a few episodes of original Macross, and like they get it very close. Like the lines of dialogue in there like match what they're supposed to be in the anime, and a lot of the things they change for like protoculture being an actual like energy source is really just changing out little inconsequential lines where somebody is saying, you know, curse them, you know, we'll get them next time. Instead, they're saying, you know, curse them, we'll figure out what protoculture is next time or whatever. Or, you know, we'll harness the energy of protoculture. So they managed to kind of weave both the actual plot and their little, you know, stuff in there pretty cleverly.
Well, one of the things you're desperately missing out on is Lin Min Mei singing.
True.
For the entire series. The whole series.
Yeah,
and
instead you get one song.
I swear she was like tone deaf in some of them. It's just like, do. How did you choose this person? You can do dialogue. Can you sing? No. Cal, pretend you said yes.
Yeah.
Her voice is slightly, you know, like grating on you, but like her singing is just like nails on a blackboard.
Yeah. And in fairness, I have come across a lot of singles from folks in the anime industry, especially like kids shows, where they're like, okay, every actor who plays one of the kids in Digimon, they're going to do a single, and they're going to have a song for their character, and they cannot sing. Gundam Wing. Every one of those 5 pilots gets their own original theme song, their own original song that they sing somewhere on one of those soundtracks, and Wu Fei cannot sing. I'm sorry.
Did you you guys did you see Asobi Asabase like a couple seasons ago?
No, I've seen like the you know, images and such, but
their intro song, which is I bought it because it's really a cool intro song. It's sung by the voice actresses.
Nice.
They did a hell of a job on it. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
But and that's unexpected in that. Like, I would expect Idolmaster characters to sing. You know, Love Live, I expect them to sing. Zombieland Saga, I'd expect them to sing because that's the point.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, some of these where you're not expecting a real song and dance out of these characters. Some of them do it excellently. And some of them, they do it well in character.
Yeah. Lucky Star.
Yeah. It's still good though. I mean, you can sort of not sing and sing, but when you're really trying and you're doing it terribly, it's a whole other story.
Yeah. And you're right, and man, Robotech was well, I think if I recall correctly, Robotech was broadcast nationally initially. Like it had one big initial push, but then after the initial broadcast, it was just regional, and it was very much catch as catch can. Because I know I couldn't find it anywhere. I mean, it was airing.
A lot of UHF channels, like deep down.
45 would do it.
NUV? It's WGBH TV
That's
57 in Philadelphia.
That's GBH, yeah.
WGBH. I've still got the VHS cassettes where they break in periodically with, you know, next this afternoon in this programming schedule, the 1986 Goodwill games. Like, wow. Like, damn.
The throwback.
Yeah, throwback to the Cold War era, hey? But, you know, that was one of those things where it's like, it was not an ABC, NBC, CBS by any long shot. I mean, it was Harmony Gold shopped it around to the UHF channel bandwidth you know, knowing that there were a lot of very regional places that just they needed content, and they needed content at some reasonable price.
Yeah.
And there it was.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we got it on
Like Channel 20
WDCA.
was,
Yeah. Yeah.
Channel 20, like when they were selling it, you know, when I was researching the history of it, particularly with Robotech and some of the other ones, when they sold it, it was incomplete sell. It was an incomplete series,
Oh.
and it would only sell in blocks. So like when you watched it on 20, see on GBH, you could actually, if you're patient enough, you could actually get pretty far along. Channel 20 only had seasons. They put up what they called two seasons, their version of two seasons. And is because the broadcasting area and the budget is limited to what the advertisers are going to put on there. And so, and now it was, at first they thought I had a good thing because, you know, it was merch. They thought they were going to merchandise it. And so that's why they put it at I think it was at the 3:00 hour for the school kids to come in and do it. If nobody was biting, then they would say, okay, that's the end of Robotech, and Lacrosse, end of whatever it is that they were showing. And so they only had limited licensing at a point. So it kind of just depended upon how, like JJ, I think you're saying, how well of a deal that they could, what they could get.
How GBH happened, because in Philadelphia, TV 29 WTAF was sort of the more established UHF channel, so that it had like some they used to run wrestling on Saturdays, and not WWF initially, but like
the local stuff,
like the wrestling where they're just wearing wrestling gear.
Okay.
So still dramatic and still adult people, but it was not WWF. And that was Channel 29. 57 was basically launched in like 1985.
Oh wow!
So really, when Robotech becomes available, it's sort of kind of like how initially Fox picked up Married with Children and The Simpsons, because there was next to nothing else that they could get their hands on. So TV 57, Robotech was like it. It showed up, and they're like, yes, please, hey, I knew. Let's do this.
Well, and Maycheck talked about how one of the big problems they had is that because they couldn't, because they couldn't secure a nationwide, NBC, CBS, ABC contract, they were going to all these different places, and they'd be like, "Oh, cool, cartoon, air it in random order," and they didn't really pay attention to the fact that this was an ongoing story. So you just episode, 10, 12, 5, 2, 19. And just all over the place, all over their schedule. And oddly enough, the kids would be very confused, and it wouldn't do very well on their channel.
Well, as I say, when you have the villain of the day, it's very easy to, have episode 12 be somewhere right next to episode 22.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't imagine watching any of the Macross put together for Robotech not in order.
That would be fun,
Dana
actually.
Sterling one day, then seeing Invid Fighter the next day, and then seeing Lin Min-Mei, singing the day 3, be like, what the hell's happening?
Yeah.
Chair goes down the hill.
Yeah, and in fairness, like, nobody was doing that on television even, right? Like, even like live action drama, right? You did not have Sopranos. You didn't have any of that stuff yet. So it was definitely different.
No, you had One Day to Live.
Well, that's true, yeah.
The World Turns.
As the World Turns, yep.
General Hospital.
Yeah.
Luke and Laura.
Dallas. What was the other? God. Falcon Crest. Those, imagine cutting those up and showing those in not any particular order. Be like, wow. JR got shot. No, wait a minute. No, JR's not shot.
No, not shot.
What's going on? Who did what?
Yeah. Yeah, it's very, it's fascinating. I always felt bad because I think Robotech has always gotten a sort of the shaft by a lot of fans. I think a lot of people have always thought that Robotech was just this travesty of editing that just completely changed everything. And I think, it was definitely an edit. They definitely edited and changed things around. But for 1985, I think, when it came out over here, it was remarkably minimal, and you do get the story of those things. And one of my favorite moments in all of anime happens halfway through Southern Cross.
Prime and Dana and everybody else escape from the master ship.
Yes.
Oh, seriously? I was just like totally.
Well done. All right, spoilers for a 50-year-old anime, whatever it is.
And they have Musica that helps them out, like with her song to like put the clones to sleep.
Wow, that's good memory. So I got it.
Wait a minute. Now hold on. My good memory. Am I wearing pants?
And it is my favorite memory because of the delivery of the English dialogue. So the folks. So for those not familiar, Southern Cross main plot line: humans exist, aliens invade. The aliens are kind of stratified. There are these sort of warriors and these sort of mental smart people, masters. And the warriors are all basically clones. They're all genetically engineered. And one of the very skilled pilots of the clones ends up with the heroes. Crash lands and ends up with the heroes. And is very confused, isn't sure what's going on. And one of the big plot lines is, do the humans accept him in with their squad? Do they trust this alien or not? And Dana, the protagonist, does, and a lot of the other ones don't, but they go along with her because she's the boss. And he's not sure what's going on because he doesn't have a good memory of what happened to him beforehand. He's just very confused. And turns out he is basically an unwitting spy. The masters have implanted essentially bugs inside him to see through him. So he is, sending all this information back. Masters show up, giant mothership. Humans go after it. They're trying to blow it up, and they're trying to get to, I believe, is the engine room at the sort of the center of that. And as they're going in there, this spy dude discovers that he is this unwitting spy, and everything that he's done, and that he has been betraying all these people who have been fighting for him, and have been standing up for him. He has basically been everything that the people who are going against him say he is. And they get down to the engine room, and there's this whole big fight. Oh, I also have to say,
I think it was the shield, because none of the Southern Cross space fleet could penetrate the shield.
Right.
So they had snuck on board to try and disable the shield.
Right. Shield generator.
Then they could, they could like knock the thing out of space.
Correct. Yes. Well remembered. Dang. So Dana and the others are sort of hunkered down in the shield generator room under heavy fire. There are 3 mecha sort of firing at them. Spy guy flies in on flies in on one of these, mecha flight things, kicks it into
flight suit.
Yep. Kicks it into the middle mecha while firing at the 2 on the side, and takes out all 3 of them all at once. And then basically says, okay, hey, all of you, get out of here now. It's time for you to run. Go. And they're like, okay, you're right behind us, right? And he goes, yep. And Dana turns to him and goes, you're right behind us, right? And he goes, uh-huh, sure. And she goes off, and he stays. And they're, going out, and they realize he's stayed behind. And we cut back to him in the engine room, or in the shield generator room. And I'm getting a little emotional as I say this. Because it's this classic anime setup. You know it's going to happen. And then he turns, and he points his gun at the generator, and he says, everything I touch turns to ash. And fires the gun, and takes down the shield generator, and takes himself out. And it is such a perfect line, delivered so quietly, so simply by this guy who's like, dang, my life, nothing I do turns out right. And this is my one chance to do something. And even doing that is going to be destructive. And it was just this brilliant little moment. It's not only like a brilliant writing moment, it is a brilliant, like, mature anime moment. Where I'm like, yes, like this is what anime can do. So yeah, I've always loved that scene. Always just blown away by that sequence.
Well, it's like they even with the edits that they had to do for time, for content, etc. for Robotech, they managed to keep the sort of the genuinely heartfelt moments where you feel those poignant, where there's a distinct and absolute end to a way things have been.
Yeah.
And it is really monumental for 1985 to encounter something like that. And for those of us who remember Star Blazers, it's the same kind of thing. Is you've got a cliff, right. You have a cliff moment where everything builds to the
1 second.
You cannot return that point again. It is all
Changes.
Off the cliff, and everything's different. It's like, oh crap! Captain Avatar is passing.
Passing, yeah.
I mean, it's just like that's a cliff moment.
Yeah.
Now you've got Wildstar and Venture, and now what? You know what I mean? And Robotech did that so well.
Yeah.
Is that they brought over the portions of those 3 shows to have those moments where it's such a consequential spot that nothing else is the same after it.
And that's the thing. Maychek was a huge anime fan. He had massive respect for Macross, and he was bringing this over because he was like, no, like Americans get to actually experience these things. Like that is an awesome thing. Yeah.
But for him to be so at that time, it's like, did you just walk out of like 20, 30 years in the future? How did you get here?
Exactly.
1985, you did. I mean, you had a lot of like this transaction back and forth, Tokyo and Los Angeles and New York, but you didn't just have people genuinely around that part of the world in 1985. No joke. I mean, was long way away. Most people weren't going to get there unless your business sent you there, or some odd circumstance ended up that like San Diego Comic-Con or something, where somebody somehow hit Hawaii and had stuff, and somebody in Hawaii sold it to somebody in LA, and then somebody in LA sold to San Diego, and that you could get like bootleg copies of stuff. It was incredibly difficult to get stuff.
Oh yeah.
Oh, for him to be a big
fan,
this is like, dude, how did you see 2? Like, let's do this.
Yeah, his future self came in and said, "You're not going to believe this, but in about 30 years or so, it's all going to explode."
To invest in something called Naruto. If you've never heard the word Pokemon, write it down. And as soon as you
down
see it
now.
anywhere, invest in the damn
Write
thing.
it down, put it in a safe, protect it.
There's this gaming card company called Nintendo, and you're going to really want to put some cash down on that right now.
Well, and the thing
and
is,
it's going to sound really weird, but invest in this character of an Italian plumber. Just trust me.
You won't go wrong.
But yeah, no, I mean, and of course, the reason he did know is he was a cell dealer, right? Like he bought and sold animation cells, and so he was like, oh, there's this animation happening in Japan. Maybe I should learn about that. And it's like, wow, how the world would be different if that man had not gotten interested in animation cells and wasn't there to bring these shows over.
And at some points, certainly West Coast, and I'm not discounting, New York City, but East Coast, it would be very difficult just geographically to get there. But I have to imagine somebody on Japanese side would have said, God, can we squeeze another, 10 or 15,000 US dollars out of this? Can we send somebody to the West Coast America, they're going to buy something. Just show them the catalog and just get something, because we're really running dry on cash, and we just need, we need some fundage right now. So it would have eventually happened, but would that have been 1990?
Right.
92?
Actually, that's actually what happened with Speed Racer. They were actually were willing to sell it for a dime, and that's how they hit the West Coast broadcast. And of course, they sold the broadcast rights further out east until it got to the East Coast, and again to places like GBH and UDC and channels like that. But that's exactly what happened. They had this Speed Racer, and they literally said, "Script. Here's the anime. You guys are in charge of the dubbing." I believe the company that actually bought the rights to Speed Racer was not a broadcast company, was not in production.
Wow.
I want to say that they were a wholesaler of something. I'm blanking on what it was. But and the reason why they bought it was simply
shoe manufacturer.
It's not, yeah. But the reason why they bought it was because they bought it so cheap, because they were going to do their own dub, and they weren't going to subtitle it because it's too expensive to do that. And so they got what's his name to do Speed Racer, and it just boom.
Go Speed Racer, go Speed Racer,
Speed Racer, go
Speed Racer, go.
Yeah,
up and driving around the track. He's going like he's never ever
coming back.
Adventures waiting just ahead. Go Speed Racer, go Speed Racer.
DJ sings the hits.
You didn't really need a plot on that. You wing that one. It was really self-explanatory. Just watching what was happening on the scene. You didn't really need any words.
Racer X is secretly Racer's brother. Yeah.
So we're gonna have this guy drive around, and as he's driving around in his Grand Prix, everyone's excited. He's gonna kill a lot of people. Driving them off cliffs.
We won't show any decapitations when he has the giant saw blades come out and do things.
The Mach 5.
Yeah. He'll jump over vehicles, land on them, leave an oil slick, and they don't just, completely immolate. No, they're just going to drive off the edge and you'll see the smoke cloud. Like, okay, cool.
Different times. It's weird. Well, it's one of those things. I remember there's a great moment. I think I mentioned this at some point on a stream, on the Star Wars Episode 1 behind the scenes, where it's George Lucas, Frank Oz, and I forget who, somebody else. I think it's Williams as well, and they're all behind the scenes. They're doing John Williams, I think, and they're all behind the scenes, and Frank turns to George and he says, "So, George, I've always wondered, like, why? If anyone knows, you'd know. Why was original Star Wars such a success? Like, what was it that made it hit so much in 1977?" And George just looks back at him and goes, "How the hell would I know? Like, no one knows. Like, who knows why anything is super popular? Like, you can point at different elements." Right? And then he said, "Look at Titanic. Why was Titanic the biggest movie of the year it came out, by like a factor of 10? He says, nothing against Jimmy Cameron. He said, Titanic's a fine film. But why was it that popular? Right? He said, things are just popular. Things hit for whatever reason. And he said, I have no idea why Star Wars, Power Rangers, folks mentioned in the chat room. Why was Power Rangers, of all things, like the one children's show to become super popular? Why was Speed Racer just the show that people tuned into?
Right place, right time.
Yep.
Location.
Star Wars, I think the opposing sci-fi movie was Damnation Alley?
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah. That was a movie.
Horrible.
Oh.
Say at least, even if it had been Taxi Driver, which that would not be a good What do you want to see the family go watch? Star Wars: A New Hope or Taxi Driver?
And I actually
we got another feature, Clockwork Orange. No.
Totally.
Dancing in the rain.
Yeah.
That's more family friendly.
And actually, that's what people talk about that. And actually, my parents stood in line to watch Star Wars, and and they talk about it, and other folks talk about that. That is the thing, is that cinema in the 70s had taken a turn And it was all Apocalypse Now. It was all this, really dark stuff. One of the reasons Spielberg was so popular is, it's a movie for kids. And Star Wars was this movie that anyone could go and watch and anyone could go and enjoy and had,
Then my dad took me to it. 76,
My
77.
dad fell asleep in it.
Aww.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. Like, wow. I still to this day, he's been gone for decades now. This is like just to this day, it was louder than hell in that theater.
Yeah.
It's like it was all things going on all everywhere. All and how he fell asleep at it, I just have no idea.
Long day at work,
It must have been. Of course, then if you back, that's a possibility. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Cool. Well, this has been a great conversation. I want to thank you all for being part of it. Don't want to keep you guys up too late. But yeah.
Do we have any history?
Do we have any history? We do. I will do that after the call. But yes, thank you both for being involved, and I'll go ahead and release you all from your obligations. Thank you all very much, and then we'll do some history and some other stuff.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for being here, and we will shift away. So that was that was our little otaku segment. Ha ha ha, otaku. Thanks to JJ and Inagi for being part of that. Hopefully we can do more of those things in the future. Always good to talk to those guys. So yes, we do have some history that I wanted to go through here real quick. Let's talk about some history. Yeah, that's a good point, man. That Power Rangers was kind of a lull during the whole Saturday morning thing. So let's do some history real quick. Welcome to This Week in Anime History, a look at some of the major anime news stories from this week, many years past. Starting this week with July 8th, when the black ships from America arrived in Japan. July 8th, Commodore Perry bringing the full military might of America on a whirlwind tour, not really a whirlwind tour, a tour all around Asia, bringing with it certain, let's just say, very firm opinions from America as to what Japan should be doing. And eventually, this led to the toppling of the Tokugawa shogunate and the opening of Japan to the West and the modernization of Japan as we know it today. So an epochal moment in Japanese and world history, because it ultimately led to the opening of Japan and many different things that Japan has done since then. So definitely, not necessarily anime history per se, but definitely Japanese history. Also, this week in 1950, July 5th specifically, the company Bandai was founded. Bandai notable because it has become a major force in merchandising, in toy manufacture. They now own the Gundam franchise, which I believe makes a yen here and there. And they have been pretty good about, or pretty strong about working with anime studios on anime properties and being kind of that heavy-duty merchandising arms behind a lot of anime. Indeed, one of the reasons for the real robot genre sort of evolving was the fact that Bandai came in and talked to Sunrise, the anime studio, to try to change the formula for mecha. And Gundam was one of those sort of experiments to change around how mecha was had evolved. And so definitely a major force in anime in general was that. Also another major force in anime, but over here in America, July 10th, 1999, Toonami changed around, or Cartoon Network changed around its Toonami block. So Toonami's been around for a while, but initially it was just an action animation block. So they showed American animation as well as anime. And so they were showing, the Herculoids and Space Ghost and a lot of those things. But it was July 10th, 1999 when they introduced Tom, the Absolution, and the anime-heavy anime block. There was still, I think, one or two American cartoons in there, but very much anime focused. And this was really where Toonami shifted into what we think of today as this vanguard of bringing anime over to America, and really bringing the average American kid some of those more, notable anime series, the Gundam Wings, the Outlaw Stars, all that stuff. And so, yeah, Toonami made it shift back in July 10th of 1999, which is pretty cool. Things definitely would not have been the same without that happening over 20 years now. Kind of crazy to think. Squeaky chair. That is that. Yeah, Tom Morrow. It's really cool that he came up with that. Tommy's pretty cool. Yeah, and then Bandai is now merged with Namco. Absolutely. And then of course now Toonami is not quite the same way it was before, but that is kind of the way things are. Nothing is ever exactly the same. Cool. We've done that. I forgot to do Bark. Let me do Bark. Brent's Anime Recommendation Corner. I wanted to do that. I love this show, so I wanted to make sure I give it some time. Whoops. Oh, darn. Hold on. Can I do... I can. Give me just one moment. There we go. Let me do a quick recommendation. That's right, JJ, gotta do that as well. So yeah, I get to. We gotta do the thing. There's a corner, right? So I gotta have an actual corner to do my anime recommendation corner. Let us do that. So I am here today to just talk about something I adore, probably quite out of proportion to its objective quality. But this is a little OVA called My Dear Marie. And it's a little odd one. It is an anime about a kind of crazy guy who decides to create a girlfriend based on a girl that he has spent a lot of time with. And I'll see if I can see her here. There we go. So there is this girl that he really loves. He's in college. And he's a crazy inventor, so he invents a robot version of her called Marie. And Marie has to figure out how to live and how to experience life now that she exists. And of course, hijinks ensued. It's basically a romantic comedy made back in the 90s. And one of the things I love about this show is that it is, it's a lot of fun, and Marie herself is pretty self-aware in the sense that she doesn't really put up with the main character's antics, and he's honestly not looking for anything creepy. He just can't be with her, like she's kind of out of the human girl kind of out of his league, and so he creates this girl just to kind of have that companionship. And so Marie herself is sympathetic to that and treats him as more like a brother. And then again, sort of hijinks ensue. Hijinks definitely ensues. And what's great is that this show is not just a pure comedy. There's also a little bit of drama involved, as the characters are trying to understand each other and stuff happens, and the show has heart. The show treats its premise with respect. Like, it knows it's ridiculous. It knows it's silly, but then adds the human drama into that to actually make you care about the characters a little bit, which is really lovely. This is the end credits, which I don't want to get into because that's kind of interesting dramatic stuff. But anyway. And it is just a really sweet little rom-com OVA. There's a little bit of nudity. It's an OVA from the 90s, so you're gonna get a little bit of that. But it's ultimately just this fun little sci-fi rom-com. And yes, it is called My Dear Marie, I'll see if I can get up the subtitle there, aka Boku no Mari. And again, it's just a fun, cute little rom-com movie. I believe 3 episodes. Surprisingly self-aware, especially on some of the sci-fi tropes you'll see thrown into there. Very nice artistic, or very nice level of animation quality. So it doesn't have huge. I mean, it's not an action anime, but the movements are very fluid and very, just again done with care. Again, just got a rom-com done with care, which is always nice. So that is My Dear Marie. Yeah, and that is that. I don't know why that's having some issues there. Yeah, exactly. Compared to Boku no Hero Academia, very different things. Very, very different. So yeah, so the question now is, as is always the question, yeah, I never got a chance to see any of Chobits. I saw like the first episode and was like, that's got a creepy bit in there. But apparently that's like only in the first episode, so whatever. Yeah, My Dear Marie is definitely a lot more, I want to say mature, where it's like, okay, yeah, there's the goofy, I've made a robotic girlfriend for myself, but then it quickly moves off the sort of prurient elements of that, which is nice. But I have a question for you all. What did we learn on the show tonight? We need to figure that out. We've learned it is it's a new season of anime. There's new anime out there for everyone to watch. It's obviously a shorter season, but there's probably something out there. Well, I was going to say there's probably something out there for you, but it's actually a pretty restricted season in terms of genres. There's no mecha out there this season that I saw. There's some shonen. There's some harem. There's an idol show. But yes, there's stuff around. But there's some surprising quality out there. There's some shows that I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna give this a bit more time and see where this goes. So it's nice to see that it's not a throwaway season for me personally. So yeah, so there's new anime out there. We've learned that ROBOTECH's not as much of a hack job as people make it sound like it is. And we've learned that. We've also learned there's a lot of anime out there. There are many decades worth of anime, and we don't know why they're popular. That appears to be the truth in the case. Yeah. So thank you all very much for being with me. I think that'll do it for us for tonight. As always, a great conversation with everyone, and we'll be back next week. I am planning on doing a anime preview for this season. Will hopefully come out over the next couple of days, and that will be the plan there. And yeah, thank you all for being part of that. I hope you all are chugging along, sheltering in place, and doing what you can. Thank you all very much for being here. Until next time, watch more anime.